Hoo-yah!
Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm John Ricing.
Get out those picket signs, everybody, because we've officially got a strike on our hands in the video game industry, courtesy of voice actors.
Okay. The largest actor union in Hollywood, the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, also known as SAG-AFTRA, is now ceasing business with some of video games' biggest publishers, which would keep a number of high-profile titles from benefiting from union voice talent.
Not being able to hire voice actors from one of the biggest unions in Hollywood is obviously going to cause some problems for the industry's major releases, and considering the positions from both sides of the issue, it might not be cleared up anytime soon either.
For those who didn't know about this, it's been brewing for nearly 2 years and finally came to a head this week when SAG-AFTRA voted to go on strike unless the video game industry restructured their contract agreement with voice actors before today's deadline. Since that didn't happen, the voice actors are now on strike, effective immediately.
This strike will prohibit them from working on any game that started development after February 2015 by 12 different publishers. That list includes publishers like Activision, Disney Character Voices, Insomniac Games, Interactive Associates, Take-Two, and Warner Brothers Games, Inc. So, a lot of major players.
Yeah, that's some big ones. So that means it's going to affect any games that might currently be in development, like sequels to the Arkham, GTA, Red Dead, Star Wars, Diablo, Call of Duty, and Destiny franchises.
Which is huge considering that most of those big publishers use the big names. According to a statement released by SAG-AFTRA, despite years of concerted effort and negotiating sessions, video game employers have steadfastly refused to reach a fair deal during our contract negotiations. A last attempt to reach an agreement with video game employers was not successful. Management remains unwilling to agree to fair terms that would bring the interactive contract into the 21st century.
The subject of these now failed negotiations between actors in the video game industry concerns, well, what else? Money! Money!
Money's one of the things.
It's always money.
It's not just a simple case of one side being greedy and the other failing to cave in, though. It's actually kind of a complicated issue that brings up video games' shoddy labor practices and also highlights just how much gaming has changed over the last few decades.
Yeah, the two sides have been trying to come to a settlement on a new contract since early 2015 after the previous contract with the Actors Union expired. The previous contract having first been established all the way back in 1994 with an expiration date of 2014.
And video games have changed a little
20 years.
bit since the mid-90s, ballooning up into this enormously successful industry that even out-earns Hollywood, and now is featuring way more vocal talent than anyone probably thought was even possible back when the contracts were actually put in place.
Yeah, so the main issue with the new contract negotiation is about residual compensation. At the moment, voice actors don't receive any kind of bonuses based on the performance of a particular game, and SAG-AFTRA is trying to argue that should be the case.
Yeah, so this would reward the stars of the industry who are constantly in high-profile games. The union is also arguing that this would also benefit the middle class of actors as well, so they're not getting paid the same amount of money for an indie title and, say, Call of Duty.
Yeah, in some ways, these changes make a certain amount of sense. Gaming has grown to become a $100 billion industry. Well ahead of the film industry in terms of global revenue. And SAG-AFTRA is arguing that video game residuals should start reflecting the types of bonuses we see in film.
Now, while all that sounds well and good for the voice actors and the video game industry comes out looking like the bad guys, the industry's main counter-argument over the last 2 years is that paying voice actors residuals is super disrespectful to the hundreds of animators, designers, and coders required to make a video game possible, as they don't get residuals either.
Yeah, there are some who say this looks like a bunch of greedy voice actors asking for a cut of money that might not belong to them. Again, since artists, animators, and coders don't get paid residuals themselves, but this isn't really up to the voice actors as much as it is to SAG-AFTRA, the union representing them. And they're the ones pushing for this for their members, rather than the members making a big stink about it.
Now, the flip side of that coin is that, yes, it's a bad deal for developers because they're not getting any residuals either. But developers aren't unionized, so no one's really going to bat for them. It's sort of a disingenuous argument from the video game industry, in a way. If they cared so much about the developers, saying, hey, we want everything to be fair for them too, well, maybe they would just give them those residuals too.
Maybe.
But that's not what's happening.
Nope. Although some voice actors agree with the industry on this, several years back, Nolan North had some words about whether or not voice actors deserve residuals, saying, in all fairness, hundreds of people are working 12-hour days for several years to make a game. So it's unfair for me to expect residuals, given the amount of work I contribute.
Isn't he part of SAG-AFTRA, and isn't he now forced to be on strike for this?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think so. To put into perspective exactly what SAG is asking for, No, the bonus wouldn't be for millions of dollars or anything like that. It would basically give them another full day of pay, or around $900 or so, for every 2 million copies sold. Again, that's up to 8 million at a cap. So really, we're only talking about 4 extra days worth of pay if a game sells bananas. And typically voice actors don't spend a lot of time in the studio either, so they actually don't make a lot of money from video games, contrary to popular belief. SAG-AFTRA was also asking that strenuous voice sessions, like, say, death streams and grunts, for instance, the stuff that really strains your vocal cords, would be limited to just 2 hours rather than 4 per day, as they're potentially damaging for voice actors. However, they still wanted a full day of pay for those.
Meanwhile, the industry offered a 9% pay raise for voice actors, plus additional compensation, amounting to about an extra day's worth of pay, depending on how many sessions they worked. They were also asked to be able to fine actors for showing up late or not committing fully to a voice role. Let's call that one the Peter Dinklage rule.
Oh, that's just me.
Sorry, Dinklage.
Naturally, the voice actors weren't too keen on any of that, so they walked away, leaving us with our current predicament. As for how this will affect future video games, well, I mean, it will and it won't.
Yeah, at the moment, only about 25% of video games use unionized voice actors.
Which is why you're not seeing names like, say, Ubisoft, actually, on the list of companies that are being struck against.
They don't use them. However, that 25% represents all the biggest titles of each year, coming from some of the hugest franchises.
Now, that doesn't mean those titles are going to suddenly be completely devoid of voice acting, however.
Silent.
The current contract they've been operating under gives those publishers the freedom to hire both union and non-union voice actors, meaning it's just going to leave a lot more roles open for non-union actors.
Yeah, while there are plenty of bigger voice actors out there who aren't unionized, this will cause problems for any major AAA publisher who are hoping for top-tier Hollywood talent in their upcoming games, which we've been seeing more frequently as of late, with actors like Kiefer Sutherland in Phantom Pain, for instance, or Kevin Spacey appearing in Advanced Warfare.
Yeah, so as long as video games want to be considered legitimate, they're probably going to need to be able to attract a lot of those high-profile actors. A lot of games actually centralize their marketing around their lead voice actors and their lead talent, especially when they have actual Hollywood actors like that. So they'd want to be able to do that, which would mean appeasing the unions.
Yeah, so what do you guys think of the voice actor strike? Who do you think is right? Let us know in the comments.
Or how about this? Why don't you propose a better compromise?
Yeah.
And for future updates on the goings-on in the video game industry and how all of that affects those of us who are actually playing them, like this video and subscribe to The Know. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just gonna get those,
with like a harpsichord piano, just.
it'll all get digitized and be like.
Oh yeah, just the Apple voice.
Yeah.
You know what's a really great movie about voice actors?
What?
I Know That Voice. And they cover video game voice actors as well.